Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. I'm back from vacation, so hopefully you enjoyed my sculpture videos. I'm going to work on that a little bit more, and I'm also going to do some casting and make them into some kind of flower pots or something like that. But it was a fun little thing to do. And but I'm back from vacation, and here's some more comic book reviews. When I was on vacation, I grabbed a few comics, and Starrangers was one of them. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you some of my own work. And if you would decide to grab some of these, you can go to my website, alexanderturbin.com. And this is Random Access, a 12-page, full-size, full-color comic. Although I think I'm going to go to black and white for the foreseeable future. It's just getting to be too much coloring a monthly comic, I guess. But I'm not done with coloring. I'm just going to do some black and white for a little while and then get back to the coloring. You can pick those up at patreon.com /Alexander Turbin, and they're $3 a month. Plus, you also get a sticker. On my website, alexanderturbin.com, you can also get all of my other stuff, Mutandis, Random Access, The Forlorn, basically everything I've previously published for the most part. So let's get back to Starrangers. So like I said, I got this on vacation along with some other intriguing books, and I've always wanted to delve into the adventure lines of comics. I didn't realize there were so many. I know that there's Ninja, and there's isn't the Adventures actually the name of their first comic, I think. And it's like a fantasy thing. And then there's also Warriors, and I think there's some other titles, and they've all always had really fantastic covers. This is by Dave Dorman. I think he did Deathhawk. I think that's what he called. And he did a bunch of covers for Adventure Comics. So let's get into this. It's pretty writing heavy, which is really pretty good. It's a good book. I'm going to say that right now. And I plan on getting the full run. I guess there's 4 issues, and it came out in 1987. The writer is Mark Ellis, and the art is by Jim Mooney. And like I said, the cover is by Dave Dorman with the editor Scott Benke. Hopefully I said his name right. But like all of the adventure comics, I always thought that the covers were really spectacular and the interiors were weak. I think it wasn't until I maybe went to Q*bert's or a little bit after that I really started to reevaluate, and actually really the last few years I've started to reevaluate some of the black and white work from some of these artists that are a little less known, and I'm not going to say less talent, but they have different talents than your standard Marvel or DC fare. But this Jim Mooney actually he's an older artist, and he did a lot of stuff in the Silver Age and Bronze Age comics. So really, this book harkens back to a lot of the Silver Age kind of stuff. But there's a lot of influences here. You can see it from like almost the first page. You've got aliens influences, you've got Star Trek influences, you've got Blade Runner influences, you've got all kinds of stuff mishmashed, and it all is kind of formed together using this old-timey science fiction kind of thing, and it's really interesting. There's a lot of story, a lot of jam-packed writing. I think that kind of detracts a little bit from the book because it doesn't let the artist breathe and kind of really let out his artistic integrity, I guess, or his shine or whatever. So let's just jump into the story. So it's basically a news report, and this is the first issue of a science fiction series, so it's gonna be a lot of heavy dialogue, a lot of heavy um, uh, just writing in general. I mean, it's gonna have backstories. It's gonna have in-depth backgrounds of characters and all kinds of stuff. So basically, it's in the future, and you have Nippon, and you also have the BTM, and I think the BTM is basically the white people, and it versus the Nippon was the Japanese. And it is very interesting that the last comic that I reviewed, Paul the Samurai, was a look into 80s fear of the Japanese corporations taking over their lives. And I remember back in the 80s that was really a big fear that the Japanese were just going to take over every market. They were taking over the car market. It's much like today is with China. It was very adversarial. And this is really a focus in on that type of thing. Only this is very serious, whereas Paul the Samurai, integrated lots of humor into it to kind of say the same thing. Where it's just it's a war with the Japanese culture. It's a war with the Japanese people. But there's also a reverence that you can get from the creators. They understand Japanese literature and lore and stuff like that. And so I don't think that they're doing it in a racial way. I think that they're just doing it in a kind of a showing what is going on during the 80s in a different a metaphor or something like that, which some of the great science fiction books, movies, things like that are all about talking about society and things that are happening in society, and kind of transitioning it into a science fiction or a horror thing. It's like The Shining. Stephen King's The Shining is all about alcoholism and stuff like that. So this is also kind of what I do in my work, where I have underlying themes that you may not notice at first, but if you give it a good read or whatever, then you kind of realize that it's not just talking about, it's not just fight scene after fight scene. It's also got some depth to it. Well, I mean, I hope that mine does, but this does as well. And so did Paul the Samurai. It's not just, stupid fart jokes for that, or just, laser beams and stuff like that. All of the great science fiction stories, they really got more to say than just, spaceships and planets and stars and shooting stuff. And that's really what I really love about this. So you've got the two organizations. You got the Nipponese culture, and they took a planet from the BTM. But then the BTM or some corporate leaders actually, because the Nipponese people took this planet that was rich in minerals and stuff from the BTM, these corporate leaders lost their jobs. So this is almost exactly like Paul the Samurai from my last review, only it's very serious, because these corporate these corporate CEOs or whatever, they gather together in a group, and they start attacking these Japanese people that are on the planet, and they mow them down. And I guess there's one city excuse me, that has it's like a dome city, and they infiltrate the dome city, and they just mow down every Japanese person they find, whether or not they're part of this whole Nipponese corporation, because they're the corporations. They're not countries, they're corporations at this point, which is, basically what a lot of artists and writers and science fiction creators thought at the time. Just like Alien and Aliens, it's all about the corporation. Basically, anything that James Cameron does is anti-corporation, even though he's richer than any corporation around. But anyway, so they've got these CEOs that have taken this city hostage, basically, and they're not just taking them hostage; they're killing anybody that they find who's of the Japanese Nipponese persuasion. Um, hey, let's have some light. So the BTM, I guess, or actually the Japanese corporation sends in the Starrangers instead of sending in their own army, which a lot of people later on decide isn't a great thing. Old timey ship. I really, I'm on the fence with this because I really am more into that 40K Warhammer 40K look, where or the aesthetics of Star Wars and stuff like that. This old timey stuff, it's just not really my aesthetic, although I really truly appreciate it. So even though I don't love it, I really appreciate it. I part of me loves it. Part of me loves it. It's not what I would draw, but part of me really loves it and really appreciates it. It's something from a 1950s, 1940s comic book, Twilight Zone or Tales to Astonish or something like that, whatever that is. So they don't introduce any of the characters. It's, I think, 5 or 6 of the Starrangers, and they are super, like, it's an algorithm. What's Allegam? Like the DC and Marvel books. It's like a combination of all of these different Star Wars, Star Trek, everything kind of characters. Like I said, they're not big and bulky like they would be now, like the Halo, like the Halo armor and all this cool new sci-fi stuff like that. It harkens back to a simpler time. They're more like cowboys than they are actually space rangers or whatever. But it's simple. It's a little bit more simple, and I really appreciate it. It's not something that I would go seeking out, and it's not something that I would draw, but I really appreciate it. I kind of do like it. It's something different. And so they're getting word from the Nipponese corporation that they're supposed to go into the city, the Dome City, and rescue or kill the CEOs that are holding it hostage. And that's basically what this guy is doing. He's telling them to do save them at all cost, and he really talks badly to them. I'm not sure why the Starrangers put up with this crap, but he treats them badly, talks to them badly. I think the Starrangers, at their core, are just good people. They're just, good, honest. That's where the Star Trek philosophy or story devices come in, where, pretty much everybody in Starfleet is just plain good, and they do good things just for the sake of doing good. And these other corporations are more like just the evil. So it's like this little core of good in this big universe of crap. And really, I can really understand that. They even have insignias that are kind of like Star Trek, Starfleet. So they make their way down to the Dome City, which is here, and they infiltrate it. They have a lot of different dialogue. They meet one of the security guys that are in the city, and he's like, why didn't the government, or why didn't the corporation, the Nippon corporation, send soldiers? And they kind of go on about the why they didn't and stuff like that. He's like, whatever. So then it flashes sideways or forward or whatever, and there's this Japanese girl. I assume they're Japanese, even though it's very hard to draw different ethnicities in comics, and that's mainly one of the biggest reasons why I don't and haven't, but I'm going to try to do more black people, more Asian people, stuff like that. It's just very difficult to draw, but that shouldn't stop anybody from attempting to do that. It should actually encourage you to to draw something more difficult than what you're usually used to. So there's this little Japanese girl, and she's being hunted by one of the CEO corporations, and he's about to kill her, but one of the Star Rangers actually kills him beforehand. When you meet the characters, there's definitely a trope to all of the characters. There's one alien, there's one fighter, there's the Captain Kirk type, there's the hot, I don't know what she is, acrobat or whatever. And they all have their different personalities. And the warrior, he's like your Klingon. He wants to kill everything, and he doesn't want to put things on stun. And the captain is always saying, put your gun on stun. Don't kill anybody unless I directly tell you to. And the guy, he never puts it on stun. He always has it on kill. So he's basically just going to kill anybody he sees. And the captain just always berates him for it. So it works into the story, and it creates a little bit of conflict within the Star Rangers, which is enjoyable because they don't have that, like in Star Trek, until Gene Roddenberry died, they were never allowed to have any conflict on the ship between characters. And that really kind of limited the story possibilities. So really, when he died, it really opened up a lot of stuff. But so yeah, they infiltrate the Dome City, and they're looking for the CEOs that are just kind of running around killing people. And I'll get into the art later on, as you know. So then you realize that the CEOs have a bomb. They call it the sun bomb, and they're all attached to it with their hearts. So if all of them die, then the sun bomb goes off, and so they all have like little things on their chest so that it's connected to the bomb. So if they all, like I said, if they all die, like it shows here, then the bomb goes off, and these CEOs they're crazy. They're insane with rage over having lost their jobs. They're incredibly racist towards the Japanese corporation and the people. And you think that, like, through most of the thing, you don't see a lot of the Nipponese people talking until towards the end, but they're just as bad. So, like, you have these two raging, horrible corporations. And it's like I said, the Star Rangers are just like a beacon of hope. And even then, within the Star Ranger Corps, you have that one warrior that, just wants to kill everybody. So he's kind of like the chaos infiltrating their little group. So you go on, and there's it's a little bit confusing when you read it, and I'll go on to that when I talk about the art and the writing. But you've got the captain and the warrior guy, and they're trying to get into some room or something, and they sneak in, and here's this corporate raider, and he's killing the Nipponese guy who he just comes across, and then the warrior guy is going to kill him, but there's one of the Star Rangers is actually a robot. Hence, the same thing as the Aliens. The Aliens movie always have a robot, and it's kind of similar. He's an ME7. So they talk about the ME7s and versus the ME6s and stuff like that. And the corporate raider is, I don't know, gonna take him hostage or something, and then the warrior just kills the corporate raider, and excuse me. And the robot says, wasn't your gun supposed to be set on stun? The captain's not gonna like it. And this is when the warrior's like, it's always on kill. I'm never gonna put it on stun. There's a finality to what I do. So there's one corporate raider down, or I think that's two. So then they realize that he has the chip attached to his chest, and that as they die, a sun bomb is going to explode. So they just keep going along, and the corporate raiders realize that one of their people has died, and this is a nice panel here. Um, so then you have more talk about between the captain and the female protagonist. They really don't go into her a lot. I think she does one thing here where she uh, incapacitates one of the corporate raiders or whatever, which is very odd. But just the way it's done. And so they fight, and the corporate raider gets his head smashed in. I don't understand, excuse me, because there was the corporate raider that's a guy, right? Oh, and then she knocks him out, and then there's another one who is a female, and that's when he smashes her face in this console or whatever, and he just kind of gives her a little lecture, and she's so cuckoo that instead of being captured or whatever, she stabs herself in the heart, so the sun bomb is that much closer to being detonated. So they have one prisoner who is this guy that she incapacitated with her awesome kicks and stuff. And so then you go back and the alien who's like an empath, and they have this whole thing where these are the Nipponese people that he's kind of saved, and they learn that there's a sun bomb that the BTS or TBM I think they're going to set off this bomb. So the Japanese people they beat up the Star Ranger, take his gun, and they're going to go off to kill as many of those corporate raiders as they can. So it's really it's a tangled web of the corporate raiders, each fighting each other. Neither one of them are good. There's glimmers of goodness. There's this little girl that the alien saved in the beginning, and they kind of have this little relationship, and it kind of shows that how good this alien creature is. He's an empath. He can heal people and stuff like that. And then so the raiders, the corporate raiders, I think it's the last one, and this is the Nipponese people who stole the gun from the alien Star Ranger, and they're gonna kill him. But apparently, it's set to shock if you try to use it or whatever. It shocks you instead of blasting whatever it is you're trying to blast. So they get into that, and then they have this whole discussion and a fight about who is who, and the captain is really like, you both are just horrible people, and they're like, we're nothing like them, and it's just one big racist kind of thing going on. Finally, the gun does go off, but it goes off in his hand after he's trying to kill one of the corporate people. So they have one hostage, and they bring him back to the security officer, the Nipponese security officer, and they're like, he is tied to a sun bomb, so don't do anything to him, don't hurt him, just keep him here for questioning or whatever. And the guard is like, whatever, I'll do what my superiors tell me to. And so the superiors tell him to kill the prisoner, and knowing full well that if he does, the sun bomb's going to go off. We don't know how big the explosion is going to be, but the Star Rangers are on their ship, and they're out of the atmosphere, and out of space when the sun bomb goes off, because the Nipponese guard did what he was told and shot the last corporate raider, and it blew up the planet and vaporized everything, including the little girl that was saved by the alien. So it's a darker story. It's got some glimmers of light. I really enjoy the story. The last few pages are Star Rangers. This is all of their character specs and their backgrounds and stuff. I actually didn't read it. I'll probably go back and read them. They're really pretty interesting, and I like the costumes here. I didn't really love the costumes here. I think these might be done by somebody else. I don't think these are done by the interior artist. But anyway, Star Rangers #1. from Adventure Comics, 1987. I really like the writing, and I think whoever did the lettering, I don't like the lettering. The word balloons are really kind of erratic, and I had to go back and reread a lot of stuff because the word balloons were in different spaces than they should have been, and the panels were a little bit off sometimes, but not super much panel wise. It's more the word balloons just being off. You didn't really know exactly who was talking to who, and that kind of threw me off a little bit. But the writing is really good. I really enjoyed the story. I really enjoyed the characters, and I did enjoy the old timey sci-fi 50s feel integrated with a more modern aliens, kind of aesthetic. The art, when at first glance, I didn't really like it. I think it is hindered by the fact that there's so many panels and there's so much dialogue and there's so much writing that it's probably just really hard to get any of his work in there to look really dynamic. And it's not super dynamic. I mean, you have people milling about, which is very hard, harder than doing any kind of dynamic poses. But you have this. And actually, when you look into the nuts and bolts of the art, it's really actually very good. You've got these guys coming out of the hole. I wish this was like a bigger panel and they had just cut the some of this stuff out. Like you have some really fantastic panels. I don't like a lot of the facial expressions. I think they're probably the weakest part, but the narrative art is really good. There's a couple places where the panels don't really make a lot of sense, and I've had to go back and reread stuff. But there's also other panels where it's just fantastic stuff. You've got the background, foreground, you've got the background, middle ground, and it's really great stuff. But you really have to dig into it. You can't just, peruse through it or look through it and try to find that money shot that you would see in an Image comic or something like that, or that, one dynamic thing that's going on. It's really a slave to the story, and that's really how it should be. I really do like the art quite a bit, actually. The only thing, like I said, the faces are a little stale for me. They don't really show a lot of expression, but then when you get like a panel like this, like I said earlier, where it's so distinct and unique foreground and background, and it shows just a lot of depth. It would show even more depth if you could have 5 panels instead of 8. So yeah, I mean, I really like the art a lot, but it's not something that you can. The alien is a little weak, but overall the art I really like, and the story and the writing I really like too. I wish the editor had kind of done a little bit better job in saying, look guys, the panel it's a little off, and the lettering, the word balloons, they just look a little janky, and I just wish that they had a little bit more professionalism, because this is a very professional looking comic, and to have it weakened by the lettering is it's kind of just too bad. So yeah, I really enjoy this comic. I'm going to go look for the rest of the Starrangers. And if you guys like sci-fi stuff like this, and you like the adventure books, I think all of the adventure books are probably pretty good. I haven't read many of them, but I've read a few, and they all are very, very solid books. And you could get it just for this cover. This Dave Dorman is a master. He is truly a master artist, and he's really fantastic. So if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell, and also a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'm going to give this an 8. I would probably give it a 9.5, if not for the lettering. The lettering is distracting. There's something to be said for not using traditional word balloons. Frank Miller did it greatly in Dark Knight. But then there's also just the non-professional look that it has, which, who am I to say what's professional, what's not professional, being the Power Comics artist that I am. But it's also if they had just taken that little extra step, it could have really enhanced the reading experience just that much. So, Starrangers, 1987. I really enjoyed it. Giving it an 8. And if you guys liked it, let me know in the comment section, and I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks for watching.